Like, do we have a minute? Right back. Is it better? Nice. I hope I'm not occupying the whole space. Right.
So people, hi, welcome to our webinar about doing business in India and Germany. I'm Clara.
Hi, I'm Sri Stamford.
So let's start. We have a few topics for you today, which are the evolution of foreign direct investment in Germany, the legal framework of each country, of course, India as well, and how to open business in India and in Germany. So we will start right now. We start with the Indian evolution of the foreign direct investment.
Right. Great, thank you so much for today, and thank you for joining us here. Hello, everybody. It's interesting that, especially keeping in mind that in 21st century, India is scaling up in the world with Modi government in place. Everywhere there's Make in India campaign. India has become the new attractive destination in the world. I hope the government will do much better in the future and attract and come up with more policies and regulations that will enable foreign investors to invest in India and make it a more attractive destination. As you see today, that me and Clara will be discussing about viable options in India as well as in Germany. And to start off with, I would first like to highlight why somebody should choose India. India is the fourth largest economy of the world, as all of you know. It is the 19th largest exporter and the 10th largest importer in the world, and it is the fastest growing exports country from 2005 to 2012, recording 17% growth as per the WTO records. India ranks 5th in the 2013 AD Henry FDI Conference Index. Similarly, India's population is a dynamic population, as most of you know. There's a lot of the age group available 15 to 65 is huge. So at the same time, the labor rate is extremely cheap, especially if you see in dollar terms. And interestingly, we have a very well established judiciary. I'm sure most of you would ask questions with respect to the delay in cases, the huge backlog, etc. We'll deal with that. That's a completely different issue altogether. But nevertheless, the Supreme Court of India has established itself as one of the finest judiciaries in the world. Interestingly, India also has signed TRIPS agreement and reputable norms, and it has very robust banking and financial institutions in place. In the near future, India is expected to touch investments up to $1 trillion US. And the 12th five-year plan of the government of India has decided to enhance infrastructure investment to 9%. And the World Bank expects India to touch 7% growth by the year 2015. And so, which is very competitive when you look at the other Asian markets, especially China. So this is the slight overview of why India should be chosen as one of the great destinations for investments. Let me go ahead with Clara.
So I as well will give you a few highlights about why you should invest in Germany. So for once, it's the largest market in Europe. Germany is the heart of Europe. So if you look at geographically on the map, Germany is right in the middle, right in the place of the entire Europe. It's the first choice business location. Like Ernst & Young's European Active Survey of 2014 confirms that Germany is one of the most strong markets in Europe, and it's the investor friendliest, which leads to +1.9. So it's very open for investment, practically in all industry sectors, which are a lot. German market makes no distinction between Germans or foreign investments. So that means it doesn't matter if you're German or if you are a foreign investor. Regarding the investment or establishment of companies, Germany will give you no restrictions at all when it comes to that. So there, as I said, no restrictions or barriers when it comes to capital transactions or currency transfers, real estate purchase, or access up to foreign exchanges. And we are having a lot of incentives in Germany for all the capital needs of investors. So if whenever you want to build up an entity in Germany, there are lots of different incentives where Germany can help you. I think in the near future, what we are focusing on is the renewable energy, as far as I can say now. So coming from the restrictions to another point, which would be the next point, it's the legal framework of each country. Please go ahead with India.
Clara, I'm glad that you point out, you given a very good highlight about the German, investments. Folks, I would like to highlight that the great agenda is that India is a great, big country. It has got a great history, and it's going to boom up. And it's already booming up. And Germany has a well-established presence in the world, in the global map. And it's time for both the countries to synergize what they have, to bring in a synergy between what they have and offer to the world at large. I'm sure Indian investors at the same time, foreign investors in Germany as well as in India are looking forward to a lot of good things happening. And this happened. This started to happen way back in 1991, and from 1991 to 2000, when the Indian economy had started to liberalize, and the more or less the FERA Act was replaced by the FEMA Foreign Exchange Management Act in 1999, 2000. So, especially as Clara said, let me quickly focus on the Indian legal framework. The key regulations that really matter for foreign investors and they should look into are: number one, the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999, the Securities and Exchange Board of India 1992, which is famously known as SEBI, Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992, Companies Act 1956, which has been amended in 2013. So we have a new Companies Act 2013, Indian Companies Act, Arbitration Conciliation Act, which is at the same time very important because it provides a very good forum for Indians to settle, to most of the investors, to settle their disputes, outside the code. The Civil Procedure Code, Income Tax Act, Foreign Direct Investment Policy, FDI policy, which which comes every now and then, and the Competition Act, which came in existence in 2002. There are few key governmental authorities that one should look at. Number one being the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, DIPP, with the Government of India. Foreign Investment Promotion Board of India, FIPB, with the Government of India, which basically gives permissions. Then there's Reserve Bank of India, and we have Securities and Exchange Board of India, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, DGFT, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Income Tax Department, and the industry-specific ministries such as Ministry of Power, Ministry of Communications and Information Technology.
What could I say about the German legal framework? So I could tell you something about business law, which is basically the same as in other countries as well. Like you have the law of contract, which is we have the principle of contractual freedom. So that means the conclusion of two contracts are directed by the parties, whoever have they most of the times contracts are made in a written form. We have basic structures of the key types of contracts in our laws, which are mainly governed by the German Civil Code, which is called BGB. Basically, German law has clear legal structures. We have in Germany a rapid processing of claims, and we have a consistent protection of intellectual property, which leads me to the next point, the intellectual property. In Germany, intellectual property enjoys a high protection, a high level of protection, and is guaranteed by the registration of intellectual property rights, which need to be registered at the German Patent and Trademark Office. So there are many kinds of intellectual property rights, just patents, utility models, trademarks, designs, and licenses, which you can register and protect in Germany and European-wide. Some basic information about litigation in Germany. It's basically the same system as in India. We have the different court levels. The decisions made by the court are binding both parties and only those parties. The decisions made by the superior courts are used as the guidelines for whatever decisions are made by the parties. The consequences of proceedings are determined by the plaintiff. So whatever happens, the plaintiff's application for relief is the thing that causes. So last point could be real estate in Germany. We have some local real estate offices, such as also the land register, which help contain record of the entire German territory and provides information about ownership and the lands and the apartments whenever there's a need for purchase. So back to you.
Great, Clara. I'm glad that you pointed out two important aspects that we've been looking for. Number one, the intellectual property rights. Interestingly, I know that the Western world is very serious about their intellectual property rights. Interestingly, India is a member of the World Intellectual Property Organization, the TRIPS agreement, and India has devised it has a very strong intellectual property regime in place, especially within the Indian Patents Act, Copyrights Act, the Trademarks Act, the Geographical Indications Act, and Land Creation Act, etc. This creates a robust system with respect to intellectual property protection. India is very serious with respect to the same. At the same time, I'm also interested in the fact that you mentioned about the litigation scenario in Germany. Interestingly, in India also, we have a very strong judicial system. The Supreme Court, being at the helm of the judiciary, has passed landmark judgments, wonderful judgments, which are pro investors. Recently in the Kaiser Aluminium case, the court has pronounced a judgment which is very pro arbitration and gives a huge relief to foreign investors. And it's something to look forward to in the Indian context. Right. So let's quickly get to the fact, like, how do you invest in India? So there are two different routes that you can invest in India. One is the automatic route, wherein you do not need any prior approval of the government. There's the other route wherein you need government approval. Government approvals, for that you need to approach the FIPB in order to get those approvals. And there are a couple of sectors which are prohibited, and I would like to highlight what are those sectors here, especially the lottery business, gambling and betting, chit funds, Nidhi companies, trading and transferable development rights, real estate business or construction of farmhouses, manufacturing of cigars and cigarettes, tobacco products, activities and sectors that are not open to private investment, for example, atomic energy and railway transport, other than the mass rapid transport systems. And interestingly, foreign investors are still not allowed to invest in the legal sector as such to set up homes, etc. That is again a different topic to deal with altogether. So beyond this, foreign investors are very much welcome to invest in all other sectors which are not prescribed here. However, there are certain limits that have been prescribed at different levels, and if you're interested, we are happy to talk more about those limits, etc. Interestingly, as Clara has just mentioned, I would like to quickly highlight how you can invest in India. What are the ways that you can invest in India? Number one, that would be the form a company, completely a wholly owned subsidiary of your company. If you're a German company, set up a company here in India that's completely owned by you. Or you can enter into a joint venture with an Indian company. And it's important, in my perspective, it would be very interesting if we have a joint venture because the local player already has access to the market. He already knows the in and outs of the Indian market. He knows what to do, what not to do. What is the consumer response? What is the consumer feedback? He already has a certain perspective, and it's important that you also you basically leverage on that, and you basically get inroads into the market. A joint venture is a good idea that most of the foreign investors would like to look at. The other interesting option that the government has recently opened up is the limited liability partnerships. It's interesting to note that under the LLP model, which pretty much works like a partnership, but at the same time it has other advantages of a private limited, at the same time advantages of a partnership. You need one Indian, and the second partner could be even a foreigner, NRI, anybody that's possible. So LLP is also a great model. It's easy to set up, it's easy to run. Even the tax implications are very simple, just like the way a partnership works, etc. And in order to set up a company, you need to follow the regulations that have been mentioned by the Ministry of Company Affairs, etc. We'll get to that in a little bit more in detail. And in order to just to focus on what are the non-corporate entities other than a company, joint venture company, and LLP, what are the non-corporate entities? You could open a license office, you can open a branch office, you can open a project office. What do I mean by all these things is that you can have a license office in order to do the licensing function. In order to set up your contacts, etc. If you want to build up your business, you set up a base here. But actually, you're not doing business, but you're developing a business of your own. Setting up a branch office is a great help because it helps you communicate with the local consumers that you have here in India. Since you're a big company, you want to keep in touch with your international consumers. Have open a branch office. Same time, you can also open a project office. Suppose if you're doing a particular project, it's always good to have a project office so that you can monitor the activities of your company very closely. In addition to these entities, you can also invest. You can also invest in an existing company. For example, I already own a company. You can actually put in your money here, and I can give you certain shares of the particular company. And those could be in which ways you can do is that either being a foreign institutional investor, you could be a non-resident Indian, and you're a foreign individual or a foreign company who's interested in buying a stake in an Indian company. And when you do that, it's important to note that you put the money and at the same time make sure that the Indian company informs the regulatory body, which is the Reserve Bank of India in the Indian scenario, within 30 days after the Indian company receives, within 30 days of the receipt of the money by the Indian company. And within the 180 days, it has to, from within 30 days to 180 days, it has to issue the shares to the foreign institutional investor or the foreign individual or the NRI. And then after issuing the shares, you have another 30-day period where you have to inform the Reserve Bank of India that, and issue and fill up a form and submit it to the Reserve Bank of India saying that so-and-so shares have been issued to this particular individual. This is the route for you to invest in India and then to report it to the Reserve Bank of India. At the same time, we're talking about the direct route here, and the same thing applies to the government route as well. But when it comes to a government route, you also need to take certain approvals from the government as and when needed. Right. So I'll quickly pass it on to Clara, who will tell us like how you could invest in Germany.
Yeah. So how can you set up business in Germany? First of all, if you want to set up a business in Germany, you should have been in Germany. So there are certain ways to enter Germany, which are, for example, you could enter for a short-term stay, just to see how the country is, how the nationality is, to do some basic steps of establishing the company. Or you stay in Germany for a long-term stay. So there are different ways of entry and residence in Germany. You could come to Germany for a short-term stay and could take the first basic fundamental steps of establishing a company. So that would mean you would need a Schengen visa, which gives you the permission to stay for 90 days for a 180-day period. And in this period, you can do the first basic steps of establishing a company, for example, which would be signing an authorization of the Articles of Association. You can do an application for registration at the Chamber Commercial Register. You can go to the trade office and do registration there. You could do any preparation activities in Germany which you plan to do depending on the business you want to set up. And you can do the negotiations and the conclusion of the contracts you need in order to set up business in Germany. So if you decide to actually establish a company in Germany, you should think of a residence permit or a settlement permit. A residence permit is a long-term stay. You can stay more than 90 days, let's say like this, depending on what kind of business you do. You can work self-employed, or you can enter Germany on a long-term stay as an employee. So this, of course, depends on if you're a non-EU citizen or if you are a new citizen. For example, if you are coming from India, which is like right now most of the cases, you will need at least a Schengen visa, and then you will need a residence permit in order to be an employee here in Germany or to work here self-employed. So the residence permit will be granted for you if you want to work here self-employed. It will be granted for you if the business that Germany is going to expect from you has a positive effect on the economy of Germany, and you have a secure financing in place if you enter Germany. If you are entering Germany as an employee, the residence permit will be granted if you have a concrete job offer by a German employer, and you have an approval from the Federal Employment Agency here. So, yeah, how to enter the German market is a big question. So there are two different ways on how to enter the German market. Depends on the legal structures of your business which you want to do here in Germany. It's almost the same as in India. We have two different kinds of entering. You could open a separate company here, a subsidiary, which is held by the foreign company, your mother company in India. So you could open a corporation in Germany, or you could open a partnership in Germany. There are different criteria, but I will not explain this now because this would go too much into details. So the second option would be you open you get into a German branch office, which is already there. Coming to this, I will not go into the explaining what a corporation is and what a partnership is. But in Germany, there are the simple steps that you have to for a branch office, you have to register it, and at the commercial register and the trade office registration. And for a corporation, you have to be, depending on what you do for a corporation, you have to be at least one shareholder. Your nationality is not relevant. If you're Indian or Chinese or whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to have a German business address or at least one local representative. And the minimum share capital, for example, of GmbH, private limited liability company, would be 25,000 euro. So you can pay this in real estate, like in kind or in cash, it doesn't matter. The foundation procedure of, for example, a GmbH, limited liability company, would be a drafting of the articles of association, a notarization of articles, payment of the share capital, registration at the commercial register, and the trade office registration. It's almost the same as in India, as you see. The kind of corporations we have in Germany are the private limited liability company, the stock corporation. When it comes to partnerships, we have the opportunities of establishing a civil law partnership, a general commercial law partnership, a limited partnership, and some other opportunities, which would, again, go too much into detail. So, back to you.
Great, thank you. At the same time, now I would quickly like to talk about, procedure for incorporating your company in India. You remember a while ago I clearly mentioned that you could open you can set up your own fully owned subsidiary company in India, or joint company. There's a procedure for setting up all that. The first and the foremost thing is that you need to have a director identification number allotted to you by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and then you need to get additional signature certificate. Interestingly, we need this too because Ministry of Corporate Affairs has completely gone on. Most of the activities, most of the registration of the forms, most of the submissions will be done online, and the comfort of sitting at home and just click on a button. So it's important that you get a director identification number as well as a digital signature certificate. That director identification number will be obtained by filling out the form DIN1. Once you get these two things done and you fill up the form 1A, which is an important document, which mentions that you need to get the approval for the name of your company. Interestingly, there are a couple of restrictions that you cannot use. You cannot use terms like India, Bharat, etc., etc. Depending on the kind of, and the name should reflect the kind of business that you're trying to do or you're entering into. Once you get the name approval, you need to file your memorandum of association, articles of association, and a list of persons who will be on the board of directors of the company. And once that is done, you pay that table fees, and then your company will be registered in India. That is a quick snapshot of the registration of the company in India. And once you do that on an annual basis, you have to follow up with the other procedures with respect to other requirements, as in to notify the government as and when necessary, to submit your returns, etc., etc. And that's follow up process that goes on a year-to-year basis. In order to get started, you need to set up a company, the procedure we just mentioned.
Yeah, now I will go into that detail which I didn't go in before. I will give you a few examples on how to open a certain company or partnership. So opening a limited liability company, as I said, would require like a shareholder and a local representative. When it comes to the certain steps, the formation procedure, it has to be really like from 1 to point 10. First, you have to draft the articles of association. You could hire a local attorney for that, or you could do it yourself, depending on if you have an in-house counsel. Second step, you go to a German notarization office, and you can do a notarization of the articles of association. This requires a certain fee, which depends on, of course, what kind of entity you have, what kind of business you want to establish. Then the payment of the share capital. The share of a limited liability company would be 25,000 euro, as I said, in cash or in kind. Coming to the kind, you could put the capital in real estate or patents or things, goods, whatever. But this needs to be agreed as well in the articles of association. There needs to be a valuation report, and the asset must be fully contributed. So then, with the step 4, after you paid the share capital, you need to do the registration at the commercial register in Germany, which is, you have to see where you're located in Germany. So it always depends on that. And step 5 would be the trade office registration. If you want to establish a partnership in Germany, there it's, yeah, it depends. It's a little bit different, but this is something, it's going too much into details. So the most common form of opening a business in Germany would be the limited liability company or limited liability entrepreneurial company or German stock corporation. Yeah, and you?
Great, Clara. And can you talk about, since we just talked about, how you could invest in India or in Germany, and since we have just talked about the procedures that is involved, let me tell you the Make in India campaign, which is a phenomenal activity that's going on in order to tell the world what India can offer. And impressively, I should mention you the recent policy measures that have taken place, the quick changes that have taken place. Yeah, that India now allows 100% foreign direct investment in medical devices. The FDI cap has been increased from 26 to 49% in insurance and sub-activities. 100% FDI is again allowed in telecom sector as well as in single brand retail. FDI in commodity exchanges, stock exchanges, depositories, power exchanges, petroleum refining by PSUs, courier services under the government route has now been brought under the automatic route. And what I mean by the automatic route is the same thing that I mentioned a while ago. Automatic route is the one in which you do not need government approvals. And India has now taken out the removal of restriction in tea plantation sector, and the FDI limit has been raised from 74 to has been raised to 74% in trade information and 100% in asset reconstruction companies. Again, interestingly, India's defense sector is one of the most lucrative sector for investments, and the FDI limit in this particular sector has been raised up to 49%. However, under the government approval route, the FDI beyond 49% in this particular sector will be allowed on a case-by-case basis after approval by the Cabinet Committee on Security. Construction, operation, and maintenance of specified activities of railway sector or have been opened up to 100% foreign direct investment under the automatic route.
So in Germany, the most new recent or the investment projects which were realized in those last years were mostly software industry and the business and financial services. What we see coming now, as I said before, is the infrastructure and renewable energy. So this will be a big market. The sectors basically where you can invest in would be the automobile, the ICT and software sector, the business and financial services, industrial machinery, equipment, textiles, chemicals, plastics, electronics, transportation, energy, logistics. As you know, we have different and very good incentives to support you in all of these different kinds of investments in these sectors. Coming to this, if you open any kind of business in Germany, we have pointed out before starting, we have pointed out on the website of the Indian National Bar Association some other topics regarding doing business in each country. So which would be the labor relations system and the consequences of the contracts, employment litigation, and so on. So we would like to point out a little bit on these things also to have your questions answered in the forum. So why don't you start with that?
Especially in India, right? We have Industrial Disputes Act, which covers the regulations industry. And in addition to that, you can see there's the growth of software companies, there's growth of many other multinational companies in India, which hire great talent on a day-to-day basis. Interestingly, all these employments are related to contracts that have been entered between the employer and the employee. And it's important that you have very clear non-disclosure agreements in place. You have in case if you want to have any secrecy clause, you can keep the secrecy clause, and any confidential information that has been passed on to the employee should be kept with confidential. It should not be revealed, and you should also have non-competitive agreements in place. And in addition to that, it's possible that you might, with a couple of times, there could be situations where you land up in an uncomfortable situation where you might have to file services of an employee. At the time, it's better you have a employment termination employment termination clause. And in addition to that, it's also important that you have it. We are human beings. I mean, it's possible that an employee might have certain disagreements with the employer. You might land up in a dispute. The employer might land up in a dispute with the employee. How do you resolve that? I'm sure you do not want to rush to the courts, make it a public event. Rather, you would like to, solve it through a mutually amicable situation. So, have an arbitration clause in your contracts, which will basically, help you. And in addition to arbitration, I would also greatly suggest that you have a pre-mediation clause wherein you can basically get mediation service, mediator come and solve the disputes, which is a lot more easier to solve than going into arbitration. Again, it involves some cost, but arbitration is a great way to solve the disputes and sort of into the courts. So, yeah, and I think Clara will highlight here on.
So Germany is always in need for a highly educated workforce, especially when it comes to young people from other countries. So as well as if you are opening a company in Germany and you need workforce, you are of course able to hire employees, hire workforce from all countries, from Germany, from other countries as well. So for that, to offer jobs, you can get some help in Germany. You have some recruitment services offered by the federal employment agencies, which are free of charge, and you get help by the local job centers, depending on where you are located at the moment. And you get public support for hiring employees. So, but offering an employment in Germany, therefore it has to be important that you offer the jobs in a non-discriminatory manner. Means that you have to see that you have both equal men and women in your company, that you are not asking the wrong questions in the interview. I will point out on that later. So all these kinds of regulatories leads to labor litigation, so you need to avoid that. So hiring an employee, basically you are free to define your recruiting process. You can hire kind of people you want to have, of course not depending on the race or the religion. It has to be free from that. The contracts you do with an employee have to be in a written form. Because the German courts require a written form, like if it comes to any labor litigation, they have to see a written form of the contract, and it needs to be in German. So always make sure that if you do a contract in Germany with an employee or an employer, it has to be in German. I'm coming now to the different employment models. There are three different employment models in Germany, which you can, which you can rely on. First would be the regular employment, which is unrestricted. So it can be terminated by written letter of termination whenever you decide to do this as an employer or an employee. And normally there's a 6-month probatory period, so where you can see how you're working together. The second opportunity would be fixed-term contracts. These fixed-term contracts expire automatically on a specific date, so you don't need a formal dismissal on that one. It's not a requirement for that. And the employer decides if he wants to renew this or not. So these fixed-term contracts are normally for a period of 2 years. And the third model would be the temporary employment. For that, the company leases employees from a temporary employment agency. So the employee receives a salary from the agency and not from the employer. That means not from you, if you have a company in Germany. And there's no formal contractual relationship between the leasing company and the employee. When it comes to the employment contract, as I said, be sure that it's written form. There's no fixed form of a contract of an employment, so you can be basically free on that as long as it's in the human rights frame. You know what I mean. Nonetheless, it's highly divisible. I want to have some certain points in it, which I will show you now, I would advise you to define these points in all of your employee contracts, which will be the description of the location and the activity of the employee, or of you if you start working in Germany, the date of appointment and the notice periods, and in case of fixed term contracts, the duration of the contract. You should define the daily and weekly working time. You should arrange like to fix the time of where you have this kind of pre-working relationship where you can see if you fit together or not. You have to define the level of wage, gross. This would be very important. The vacation entitlement, what else? Non-disclosure agreements, non-compete obligations, and yeah, in case any contractual penalties. So this would be very important. When it comes to the termination of the contract, be aware that there have to be possible reasons of termination. So there are many categories of terminate the contract, which can be dismissal for personal reasons or for conduct-related reasons or business reasons. You have to be aware of that. Of course, there's also the chance for an extraordinary immediate termination in cases of serious misconduct or unacceptable behavior, unacceptable whatever, that you cannot continue the contract. Yeah, that about the German labor law.
Wonderful. Before we take up too much time, we talk about kick out to the steps that have been working involved in the investments, etc. Would that be a good idea now?
Please start.
Yeah, great. As we have already talked about so many things so far, just to give you a quick overview, once again, quick snapshot. I would say that when you have decided to make an investment in India, or for that matter in Germany, first and the foremost thing that you do, taking again from the Indian perspective, that you identify a structure that you want to invest through. It could be a company or it could be an individual investor, it could be a foreign institutional investor, or you choose a joint venture that you feel comfortable with. Number two, and find the areas in which you want to invest. Figure out whether it's an automatic route or you need a government approval. In case if the central government's approval is needed, get the requisite approvals, and then you incorporate your structure that you have decided, and then you flux the flows. You influx the flows through various instruments, which could be through direct remittances into the accounts, through NRE accounts, or even through external commercial borrowings, and do the meeting reporting requirements of the RBI, and also get registration and other key documents like PAN, TAN, PAN card, etc. And then you, at the same time, in case if you're investing in a particular state, the central government has provided certain incentives to investors. At the same time, since India has two different levels, central and state, even few state governments might provide you with few incentives. For that matter, also do you get any approvals that are needed at the state level? And find an ideal space for you. If it is file industrial entrepreneurs memorandum, and some of the industries may also require industrial license. You have to construction by renovation of your unit, hiring the local manpower, obtaining licenses if any, and meet any other regulations mentioned in the center and the state. And you have to meet your annual requirements, as I stated earlier, with respect to your corporate structure as well as with respect to payment of taxes, etc. And in doing all this, greatly satisfied Clara has actually mentioned that you need to find a local attorney who will help you in doing all this. And in order to identify the right attorney, I would suggest that you talk to the attorney, tell him what are your requirements. There's a lot of procedure that is involved. It's always good to have a local attorney on your side who can guide you with respect to step-by-step activity of making sure that your investments are invested rightly, and and that you have a corporate structure in place and everything is running smooth. In addition to that, I would also like to focus on one important thing. Is that many investors might think, what if I'm putting some money in your country, but how do I get my money back? Because they look for dividends, they look for profits. You don't invest in a country just for the sake of investing, but you also look for profits, you also look for dividends. Trust me, in India, dividends are fully repatriable without any restrictions. The net money after the tax has been deducted, the tax is strongly deducted at the source, and or it could be a dividend distribution tax that is levied. And once that particular the tax has been levied, you can repatriate your money without any hassle. And in fact, your interest money could also be repatriated very easily after paying the new tax that is normally applied. Yeah.
So what I get asked many times is about the tax system in Germany. If you open a company in Germany or you open a partnership in Germany, which requires different steps or different requirements of tax. So if you are opening a company in Germany, there's a kind of taxation which is named the corporate income tax and the solidarity surcharge. So this is the overall tax burden together with the trade tax. So if you have a company in Germany, and of course corporations are subject to income taxation, so it consists of corporate income tax, the solidarity surcharge, and the trade tax. If you open a partnership in Germany, with a partnership, it's like that the partners are paying the tax. It's not the corporation which is liable for the tax, it's the partners. So the partnership itself is not subject to the income tax, it's the individual person. So the taxation is made up of the components same as the corporation, the personal income tax, the solidarity surcharge, and the trade tax. Other questions I did not receive on that. So we are going now because we have just a little time over. If there are any questions any questions that you are having, you are
free to ask.
Yeah, you are free to ask now. Otherwise, is there anything more you want to add on the topics we were mentioning?
I would just like to highlight on the taxation aspect that you just raised. In India, the corporate taxation is 30%. If you're a company incorporated, you will be levied 30% tax. If you're a branch office or budget office or license office, if you have a fixed place of business in India and that's treated as a permanent establishment, you will be taxed at 40%. And when I say 40% taxation, and the surcharge and the education says that's levied separately, but that's very minimal amount. The limited liability partnership, the new model of doing business it's one of the new vehicles that I've already mentioned. The tax limit is like 30%, plus the surcharge and the education cess. And however, there's no tax on the profits that's distributed. And India has recently enabled the minimum ordinary tax, wherein 80.5% of minimum ordinary tax is applicable along with surcharge and the education cess. The Indian tax law requires MLT to be paid by corporations in cases where the tax payable, according to the regular tax provision, is less than 18.5% of their profits. And however, the max MLT credit can be carried forward in next 10 years for set off against regular tax payable during the subsequent years, subject to the same conditions. Right. So this is the overall information that we are here to provide you. You feel free to ask any questions that you want. We already see a question from Mr. Lalit. Can you please inform us about the website from where we can get information about German laws? Do you have any specific thoughts?
Specific websites we can. Specific websites. Actually, no, I don't know any specific websites where you can get information about German laws. I would suggest Googling, but I mean, I'm sure you were that smart before. You could have a look on the website of, I think it's www.gtai.de. You can have a try on that. Otherwise, I would suggest to just have a random look on the internet.
I have a great idea. If you need any information, please contact us.
Yes, I can tell you directly. This is way easier. Just contact me, write me an email, and I can brief you directly about any German law when it comes to companies or whatever you're interested in.
And in case, and instead of you taking all this trouble of finding out what to do in Germany, and we have Clara from Oliver and partners here, who is here to provide great help in helping you in establish your business in Germany. And since she's been in India and she's traveled and worked in India for a while, she has a great knowledge about how the Indian businesses work and what exactly they're looking for, and how to guide the Indian retail investors or institutional investors in Germany. And I'm sure, like with all the presentation today, you've got a very good idea about a overview about the German economic situation and how corporations are incorporated and how the funds are invested. For anything more in detail, since we just have 2 more minutes, it's not easy to cover everything possible. I would greatly suggest that you contact Clara. In case if you have any doubts with respect to any Indian, feel free to get in touch with Plus One Legal Services. I'm happy to.
So yeah, and in case you have questions about entering Germany as a company or as an employee or whatever, doing investment in Germany, or vice versa, German people who want to invest in India, contact us on www.alexander-partner.de. We would like to help you in any questions, any kind of doubts you're having. Oh, we see another answer. May I have email? Yeah, so please, my email is, I will write it down for you, which is way better. Thank you.
Or we can circulate. Email ID we can circulate.
Yeah, we will write down the email and the address of our company on our law office on the website of the INBA.
As our administrator has just said, we'll circulate all the email IDs to all the attendees, and you can contact us personally for that questions.
So it was nice having this webinar with you. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Any more questions? Contact the Indian National Bar Association or contact Alexander Partner. We are very willing to help you in any kind of questions. And yeah, it was nice. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.